Hello, this is Claire and Cheryl. Welcome to NeuroTRYvergent, an experiment in living and working without the mask. This is a podcast where we discuss navigating career change and just existing in this world as neurodivergent humans. I'm Claire. I'm a late diagnosed ADHD adult. I founded a business called Wizard's Way Career Path Mapping, and my business is a combination of career coaching for what I like to say autistic, ADHD, and self-identified aliens. So people that just don't fit in. So we do career coaching for that, and then I create workbooks and e-courses. And Cheryl is an ADHD adult who is moving from being a professional nanny to a positive discipline trainer and parent educator and consultant. So each week we pick a topic and we talk about our initial thoughts. We look at the pros and cons. We comment on what each other has to say. And then we try to end with a little bit of balance. How do we balance the pros and cons of that topic? We end each episode with a 2-week challenge that both of us agree to take on, and we challenge anybody watching the podcast to take on as well. So, Cheryl, what was our experiment last time?
All right. Thank you, Claire. Our experiment was to create your community circles and then just kind of look them over and see what you see. And so, for example, this is my community circle. And it's just like concentric circles that go out from you. And if you want to see that episode, we'll probably put an an iCard up for you to check it out. So yeah, Claire, do you want to start us off with how the experiment went?
Sure. Yeah. I I liked this experiment, but it also kind of gave me some like challenging feels. Um, and I'm not totally sure why. So uh, we'll see if I can explain this well. So one thing I noticed is that I felt very strongly that my innermost circle was just me, and that there's nobody in that middle circle. And then I had the next circle out, which was a very limited group of people. Um, and I think we kind of talked about this in that episode. So this wasn't totally a surprise, but in some ways, I felt very protective of this circle. Um, and like letting people in felt very challenging. And so I would define this circle as the people that I can show up myself for as myself the most. So this is like where I would have the most masks on. When I'm with myself alone is probably the only time when I'm fully unmasked. I don't know how to do that with other people yet. And then that inner circle is like the folks that I am at least experimenting with, taking down the most masks. And then the next level out was actually where I found the most of the people that I would call friends. We're 2 out. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds of people in here, including people that I have really great like intellectual relationships or work-based relationships with. And then the farthest out one would be like things like neighbors, some of the friends, like some of my son's parents, that I like would be there. And that was like even, yeah. So um, I think this is a really good exercise for me to do on a regular basis, because it helps me understand my own boundaries and my own internal workings around people. And by actually writing it down, I felt like I got a lot of clarity around that. So, yeah. What was this like for you?
Thanks, Claire. Um, for me, it was very interesting because I also put me in the middle as my own circle. Um, and just like it for me, it was like twofold. It was like the people who I can be around easiest and the people who I know I can rely on if I ever needed them. Right? So they're like two different kind of criteria that I kind of used. And so like me, I had at the middle, then I called it family, but it's not like my it's not just my biological family, like, or in some cases some of my biological family aren't even there, so like it's a very loose family, but it's like the people who I can be myself around. I can say the things I need to say, I feel comfortable with, I can rely on. And then I had like friends, right? Like, so like people who are like, um we're close on some level, but not like, super, super close. And then I had my next circle was community groups. So like groups in my community that I'm a specific part of, where it's like we share our experience or something like that, right? And also in that section was my therapist and my doctor. So, and then outside of that are acquaintances. So people who I see every once in a while who like I would be like, hi, and like that would be about it, and then um and then outside of that is my immediate community. So it would be like Seattle or Fremont or like, those kind of things. And then I had Earth. So we're all part of a community. Everyone on Earth is part of something. Um, so yeah, those are my oh, and then along with acquaintances in that circle, I had clients and parasocial relationships. So, people who I see on YouTube or something like that, where I have an
I
affinity
love
for
that.
them.
Hmm.
But like, and like making sure that each of the people that I have are in, not like they're in the appropriate rank, but like I'm not contributing more, right? Like than I should be, and that kind of stuff. So, and I had a hard weekend this weekend, so I ended up reaching out to people. I ended up taking really good care of myself and reaching out to my people in my family circle. And that is new for me. And I'm really proud of myself. Yeah. Yeah. So
Nice. Nice. I love
that,
that we can celebrate that here. Yeah.
those are my circles.
Yeah, I realized that I totally didn't think about doctor and therapists. I have so many doctors because of my conditions that I'm a little, that feels a little weird, but I'm going to think about that more. And then I realized I didn't put my animals in. So if anybody was coming close to venturing into the me circle, it would be my animals. So some of these I had to write like on the line in between.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
my animals are, yeah, are are there. So
Yeah.
that was a good, and I love the clients and parasocial piece. It's so beneficial to hear how you did this because
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
brain was just not seeing that. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and like please write in the comments if you know of other people where you put them in your kind of like social ring. Um, and it can just help to like, I just love that. Like writing it down was really helpful for me to kind of be like, okay, this is where I'm at. Like this is where you land. And I can be like, am I crossing a boundary here? Because sometimes I do that and I say too much to people who maybe aren't in that inner circle of friends. And that's okay. But like it has to be a choice, not because of pressured speech, stuff like that. Where
yeah,
I can kind of assess that, it's fun.
yeah, that's awesome.
So.
So what are we going to talk about this week?
So for today's topic, we looked into we agree on with each other on a lot of things, and like we have similar, and not just agree, but like we have similar views on a lot of things. And so what we did was we looked at our strengths profile that we made and saw where there was a big discrepancy because we thought maybe there's like something there that we can like mine for like some really good discussions between us. And what we came up with was spirituality. And we both like looked at each other and I was like, are you okay doing this? Are you okay doing this? Yes, yes. All right, we'll give it a try. Worst thing that happens, we don't put it out. So if you're seeing this, congratulations, we did a podcast. Yeah, woo. But yeah, so spirituality. So Claire, would you like to start us off with some pros and cons on that?
Sure, sure. So I will light a white protection candle um, for this because I'm feeling like a little bit of need for protection on this topic. Um, so, yeah, I think I was a little more about like a little more afraid of this topic. So, and the reason is because this is like very, very personal to me and not stuff that I share very much. So, talking about it just makes me feel really vulnerable. So, I'm glad that I'm trying to do it, and it's hard. So I'm going to do things backwards because that's what I want to do. I'm going to talk about cons first, like because I think that maybe will help me process out why this feels so personal, right? And why I don't want to talk about it with other people. Um, so first of all, I just want to bring up the like words, right? And in my little like mural board where I kind of write what we're going to talk about, I put spirituality, WTF. Like and so there's the word spirituality, right? Which I think is feels a little safer, feels a little more general. And then there's the word religion, which depending on who you're talking to, are either the same thing or as far apart as they get. And so I just want to say words. These are words, right? In general, I have a very loose hold on words because I find words to be highly inadequate to express what's going on in my head. So I can hold pretty lightly to both of these words. So the cons, I will say, of talking about this stuff and talking about my personal experience with spirituality is being lumped in with people that are considered to be non-thinking fanatics, right? So if you are religious, then you are go in this, you put in this box. And then I also feel like there's a very strong fallacy, and we can argue about this for sure, but there's this fallacy that there it's science versus religion, and I'm a scientist and I'm religious and spiritual. I've been a highly spiritual person. And so um, that is not always an argument that I can like enter into people because to me it's like the it's apples and oranges. It's not even like it's not they're not even on the same planes of existence. And I don't understand why. I understand historically and through one lens why they're compared, but for my way of seeing the world, it's not the same thing at all. Like it just doesn't make sense to compare them. So those are like kind of the reasons why I'm like, I maybe don't want to like talk about this with other people. And then the pros. So, and then I'll share at the end what my which boxes I kind of fit into. I don't really fit well into any boxes, but so I'll tell you more about me. I just don't want that to color things until we get to it. So, things that I deeply cherish and love and just light up my every part of my being about spirituality is humility, like being humble and having this deep feeling that humans do not know and do not understand everything. And it's not only that we don't know, but that we're not capable of, right? It's like this sense of feeling like um, it's the opposite of arrogance, and just this acceptance of things that are greater. So like accepting the greater wonder that might exist. Um, and then the last one that I'll say right now is it's hard to talk about. I don't know. It's like such a big concept in my head, and the words just sound kind of like So, and then the last one is just that, like, a feeling of connection and compassion for other living things, that really often comes to me um, through a spiritual core. And yeah, so just being real, uh, no matter what, I feel like I'm other in terms of spirituality, right? I don't feel like I fit well in anyone, and if I had to like put words on it, so I would identify as a Jewish witch. So I am Jewish. I chose to be Jewish. I went through a very long Jewish. It speaks to a lot of the intellectual side of me, and the ability uh, to think and to argue and to analyze and to handle deep subjects from that kind of angle. And then the witch side would be some like deep ancestral roots of connection with earth and connection with other living beings and like elemental symbolism and um, candles, like little things show up for me, but just this like connection to um, that I most identify through a witch lens. But I think either one of these communities would very easily be able to say, well, you don't really quite fit here, and this is why me. So that's probably another reason why I don't really want to talk about it. So those are my pros and cons of spirituality. Your
Okay.
turn.
Yay, Claire. um, Spirituality. This one is always a tough one for me because, I have some level of spirituality, but like, so I grew up Catholic, which is a very defined spirituality, right? Like there are things you do and you don't do. There are blah 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 blah, whatever. Um, and I have seen some of the pros and cons in that in terms of religion and things like that. Like, I've seen it keep people going when people can't anymore. And I've seen it cut people down when they needed to be lifted up. But I see it kind of as a tool and it could be used in either direction, right? It depends on who's wielding it and what that is. Um, I consider myself atheist. Some of you know that, some of you don't. So, hi, this is me. uh, I consider myself atheist. I have no problem with people believing in God. I just, I get a lot of pushback from people around that. And that's kind of a con for me. And I get it because there's some people who are like militant atheists and they're annoying. And like, it's just, you get every person in every type of way in everything. Um, but yeah, for me, the the pros of having a spirituality for me is like you get to build of it what you want. You get to build up those blocks however you want to make it. And you know, spirituality is individual, religion is group, right? So like you're very rarely you're gonna like my spirituality doesn't fit into any one group perfectly. Um, and the cons are when people use that spirituality to control others and to tell others what to do and what to their own spirituality. They think they believe in it so strongly that it becomes the only thing that they can see. And there's an insecurity there, so they have to make sure everybody else is following it, you know what I mean, and doing it how they think it's right. And it can be overwhelming sometimes, and I think it was the word was usurped by a lot of, but doesn't matter. I'm a very secular person in that I don't really I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any of that stuff. Like anything that we would do, fairies that you would consider spiritual. Don't mind if anyone else does, but I don't believe in any of that. So for me, spirituality was always kind of distant, and I didn't really have a way in. So for me, like the cons of it is like it feels a little bit exclusive in a way, and I don't know. I just never really felt like I fit in anywhere completely. And but the pros are that it's, I've seen it work like such beautiful things for people, do such beautiful things for people, help them get to where they want to go. And over the years, I've developed my own with my own um, translations that help me develop my own spirituality. And it can be really powerful. Yeah. So that's me.
All right. Um, I have some questions that I would love to throw at you, and you can throw them back
Yes.
at me, and you can say I'm not answering that. And you know all that, so I don't know why I'm giving you permission. Um, First, I just want to put out an observation, and then I want to ask a question. So I think one thing that I found really interesting was that you were raised religious, and now or at some point it feels distant, and there's no way in. Right? Where I was raised, what I call aspiritual. I was not raised atheist. I was not raised anti-religion. I was raised without spirituality. That's
Yeah.
and and it is all around me. And there's
Yeah.
only ways in.
Yeah.
So I just think that that's an interesting contrast.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm yeah, and I'm wondering if the the I'm just wondering about the role of how we were raised plays in it, right? I was raised in a Catholic state, so I have a lot of opinions about that, but I will not share those here.
Yeah.
And then my question to you is, ha, my understanding of the the word atheism is almost from a like anti. It's not just a without, it's an anti
Mm-hmm.
religion. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious to know if you have a different understanding of that word, and at the same time, like how, if it is anti, then how does that coexist with this any spirituality at all?
Yeah. Yeah. So I get that. And I think it's just, for me, it's just a matter of what I believe. Atheist without a God. I don't think there's a God. Um, and like, that's fine. Like, other people can think what they want, but I don't think there's a God. I don't think that there's one religion that rules
Right.
them all. I don't really put a lot of stock into um, people avoiding things or not doing things or something like that because of their religion. People can do what they want. Obviously, I'm not ever going to say that we need to have laws or rules against religion. It just is something that um, has to be very carefully monitored, because I think that there are some really sticky situations that people can get into in that way, and I've seen them firsthand. And it just it's a scary kind of thing for me, a little bit. Spirituality, I feel like, is very different from that. So most of my atheism comes around religion. Spirituality, it not being organized and people thinking what they want or doing whatever, like that's fine. I don't care what people believe either way. It's just like someone's own personal beliefs and then the organization around beliefs are two different things in my mind. And so with spirituality, I kind of, one of the things I've done is like, I want to take back the word spirituality to not be to so that secular people can have a way in for that.
Hmm.
Um, people who don't believe in any kind of magic or serendipity or any of those kind of things, right? Like we still have beliefs and codes of ethics and things like that that we believe, but I just don't believe that there's a God that gives us that. So, does that
Yeah.
answer your question,
Yeah,
or is
yeah,
that just
yeah, yeah.
more
It
complex?
it does. It's like I also don't believe that there's one religion to rule them all. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I and if I were to explain what my interpretation of God, it wouldn't fit any classical interpretation. So in when you're saying not believing there's a God, are you saying that like a classic interpretation of a being?
I mean, yeah, I think so, but also like an energy or
Hmm.
a force or a movement or
Hmm.
something that has some sort of cognition around the world and the
Yeah.
universe and how it is. Does
Yeah.
that does that
Sure.
kind of
Yeah,
clarify?
that's well said. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I so one of the things I love about the form of Judaism that I participate in is there's no requirement to believe in God.
Hmm.
There's a commitment to wrestle with the concept.
Yeah.
And that just speaks to me in such a large way is that I'm agreeing to wrestle with the concept that there is something greater. And because of the way my mind works, that's not boxed in, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I think about it. But I wouldn't claim to speak for other Jews in any way. And
Yeah.
my favorite thing about that my favorite comment forever about Jews is how do you know you have two Jews in a room? And it's that you have three opinions. So so I am only speaking for me and my experience,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
full on understand that it like other people
Yes.
um, might not do that. And then the other thing that really struck me is I think there's so many bad examples of rules and guidelines and how those can be used. I really like that you use the word tool, right? Because or it's almost like weapon or tool or like it can be
Yeah.
something that actually, right? Like is it a tool or is it a weapon? It's how you use it,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And that I kind of heard a little bit of that sentiment, just to
Yeah.
talk about a concept of that's a rule and that might seem really strange, like the concept of kashrut or being kosher. If
Hmm.
you look at it literally, can seem a little batshit, right,
Hmm.
on many levels. But some scholars go in and study and look at, well, what is actually the meaning of this word? And this is like to eat in a good way,
Yeah.
right? And so the concept of me learning through my body and through my interaction with my body how to eat in a good way,
Yeah.
like that profoundly makes sense to me,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so do I keep kosher? No, I do not keep kosher as the literal you don't eat meat and cheese and dairy at the same time and that kind of thing. But do I keep kosher? Do I eat in a good way? Yes, that is I try. I try.
Yeah.
Like that is my guiding light. And I appreciate the wisdom of thousands of years of
Hmm.
humans thinking about this and
Yeah.
arguing about it. And and that's another thing that I really like is it's like if when I do Torah study with a group of people and just to read stories and to read things that are going on, and it's like, holy shit, that this is the same thing that's going on right now
Yeah.
in a different framing. And it's like, it just puts such a context on humanity that I really appreciate, and yes, things are different now, and there's more people, and there's a lot of different factors, but a lot of the things we are even a lot of the atrocities even, and the
Hmm.
disappointments and the hurts and the all that we're experiencing right now
Hmm.
have been happening. throughout
Yeah.
human history. And that is just that as a person who grapples with I grapple with humanity a lot.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah. And so that is something that helps me kind of think about humans in context.
And I
So,
think that's something I have those same feelings as well, like reading, if you were to read the Bible or a religious text but I just for me it's just the same as any historical text. I could
sure.
read the Iliad, or I could go and read, old fairy tales, or I could go and
Yeah,
read anything else. And
totally. That's fair.
so for me, having it be about a specific book feels very limiting. Um, and that's not to say it's wrong. I think it's great. I think that sometimes you need those limitations to be able to look and understand something and like put some boundaries around it. Like there's a choice that needs to be made. I only have a certain amount of time, so I have to read a certain amount of books. But like and there's not a community around any random book, right? Like maybe archaeologists or something like that. For me,
True.
it's just
Yeah.
the religious and spiritual link that I don't understand completely. Like, why does it have to be in the middle of a synagogue or a church or a whatever? You know what I mean? Like, why can't it just be in our libraries and in our
Yeah.
communities at large? Like
Well,
that's my kind of disconnect in between it. That doesn't
hmm
make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it can. It can. And like, so as a person who like does kind of like to be by themselves and not always in community, it's a
Yeah.
little funny for me to be talking about it. But there is how do I even explain it? So, um, coming to like days of awe and times of atonement in the Jewish New Year and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when we're and everyone is together and
Hmm.
we are admitting that we are fallible and we are
Yeah.
admitting that we had made and we're saying words that are pre-written, right?
Yeah.
But it's symbolic. It's symbolic to me at least, and to
Yeah.
and we're and everybody is doing this thing, and the energy and the connection to humanity in that situation is unparalleled for me.
Yeah.
And I don't really like that kind of stuff, you know? And
Yeah.
so, another example for me would be like, and I can give a pagan example too in just a second,
Yeah.
but like another example would be like sitting Shiva, when if somebody dies, right? And in our modern world, like there's so much pressure to just like, okay, they're dead, you did the thing, move on, go back to life,
Hmm.
you know? And it's just like it holds space for the profound thing that just happened.
Yeah.
It holds space. It says for 7 days at first, and then for a month, and then for a year. These are
Yeah.
these like formal grieving
Yeah.
cycles. And if you don't experience them that way, you don't experience them that way. But it
Yeah.
like it gives space, and it gives like it honors the fact that something profound happened to your family.
Yeah.
And that it was really hard because my mom wasn't Jewish. And so when my mom died, I just so greatly wanted to observe those rituals.
Yeah.
It's like I needed it as a survivor.
Yeah.
And it wasn't appropriate because it wasn't her
Yeah.
way of being. Yeah, and I think about like more pagan circles I've been in the past, you know, and sometimes it's a very it for me it was a very different feeling, but the sense of community and the sense of doing things together was strong. You know, I'm thinking about like Beltane and like a Beltane fire and the idea of jumping over the fire and what are you releasing, you know,
Hmm.
um, can be profound in community. Um, and it can also be really scary. Um, and so I think both of these situations that we're describing are simultaneously true.
Yeah.
And it's like the situation that I hear you describing is oh, how do I say this? I'm just going to say it is a certain way of being,
Mm-hmm.
a certain way of thinking, a certain way of doing what you're told. Um, it's almost more, in some ways to me, it's almost more of a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And that religion is filling that gap and it's being used as a weapon,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's dogma,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Yeah.
dogma and it's used as controlling. But what's the fucking difference with like capitalism, or something like that
Oh
that's
yeah,
like used as
100%.
like it's used as a,
Well,
or
capitalism, money is the god,
as
and I
an
don't believe in that
economic.
religion either.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying like
Yeah.
it's a yeah, I don't think it's
Yeah, I'm just atheist in the way that I don't believe in a god.
yeah.
And I think I don't, like, I have my own things that I do. I just don't, I think maybe it's like we kind of line up a little bit in that
Mhm.
I don't feel like I belong really anywhere. Um,
Mhm.
in terms of what might be spiritual for me. So we might want to hop into our balance, because maybe
Good.
that'll
Good. Thank
that'll
you.
no, but
Yeah.
that
I
might
appreciate
actually
that.
like help us like
Yeah.
understand each other a little bit more.
Yeah, apparently I
Um,
do really want to talk about this.
yeah, you
Even if
really
I said I
do.
didn't. So thanks
Yeah.
for reining us in. Yeah,
No, no, no. It's totally
what
good.
do you what do you think about
So
balance?
for me, I had to do a lot of what I call translating. Um, so uh, for me, I used what I knew, which was Catholicism, but it could be anything. Um, and so I said, all right, what's my God? Like, there are a billion things more powerful than us and that move the world in a way, erosion, death, life, whatever, And so for me, it's connection. Um, and the Holy Spirit, or like that force that moves through people. So like the universe, people will say, or something like that, whatever that term is, for me are like stories, and like the stories of us and us sharing our stories with each other. And then the afterlife for me, I think when we're dead, we're dead. That's it. We're in the ground. Our bodies are the energy that used to run through our head goes into moss. I don't know, whatever. Like that's just how it is. Our afterlife is ripples in each other's lives. Once we're gone, what is our leaving behind? And then I feel like there are a couple of things that help kind of get an idea of what mine is. My saints are Mr. Rogers, Carl Sagan, and Betty White. I love them. Um, and then to get an idea of what like moves me in a spiritual level, so like what's really important to me and like encapsulates the things that I think are really important. And that's Pale Blue Dot, The Test by John Green reads it in one of his things. So it's The Test. And then I'll write it, but Russell Schweikart, he is a astronaut who was up in the space station, and he talked about his experience. And I think it really sums up my spirituality, where I hear it and I weep because of the beauty of it, because of the truth of it. And like for me, that's what spirituality is. And that's the good part of it for me. Like that's the part that I want to take from it, is like what it helps us communicate with each other our values and things that are important to us in a way that makes sense to everybody, by using a book or a series of thoughts or somebody's speech or whatever it is. And it's just, I don't believe in a God in that way. Like, I don't believe in any moving, thinking thing. I don't think that there's anything magical about connection between people. I think it's just something that is going to happen when you have this many molecules close enough to the sun. We want to make order and like, and that's it, you know? So, so that's where I got to be like my secular self and also the self that makes patterns in my brain that brings meaning to my life. Yeah. So that's me.
Yeah, yeah. So that reminds me of like the science versus spirituality or religion, like argument, like the two can exist at the same time. You
Yeah.
can be both. And
Mm-hmm.
I will, I'm going to keep this super short.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think we tried to find something we disagreed on, and we actually don't disagree. We just talk about it in very different ways. I will
Yeah.
say, with one exception, is that until I frickin' die, the little kid in me is still gonna somewhat believe in magic. Like still going to and still gonna like leave possibility for that. And but you have to understand like my definition of magic isn't really straight on, right? So it's nothing for me is really straight on. It's
Mm-hmm.
constellation, you know. So yeah, yeah, but I think it's the way we talk about it
Yeah.
that's different, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the way we experience it. Um, but that the actual feelings or beliefs or worldview is actually really, really similar. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what do we freaking do for an experiment for this one?
Do your own translation, I think. Like what's your translation? Like what is your God? Even if you have a God, like what does that represent to you? You know, because some people have a God and it represents safety or it represents connection or it represents a ton of different things. You know, who are your saints? Who are your people who you look to in times of hardship that you're like, this person has a lot of wisdom and I want to listen to them. And like, what's your afterlife? What's your purpose? What's your, these things that religion or spirituality, I should say. And in some cases, that lines up with religion, and that's fine. I wouldn't want to take your idea that magic exists away from you. I wouldn't want, my mom has a beautiful spirituality around Catholicism, and I would never want that to be anything else than that, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, what is it for you? Just maybe examine it and see if it's um, something that serves you. And if
I
it is,
love it.
great.
So perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm Claire. You can find me at wizards-way.mykajabi.com, spelled below, and on Substack as Wizard Claire, and on LinkedIn as Wizard Claire. So is the magic thing really a surprise? You know, come on. Okay.
And I love it.
Cheryl, what about you?
I'm Nanny Cheryl, uh, and CherylTheNanny.com. Sorry. You can find me at CherylTheNanny.com and check me out there. I got all my stuff there. So reach out if you want to.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.